Chili is the trusted partner for pairing, matching, and data enrichment, helping companies hire better talent faster. Chili help recruiters connect candidates with jobs by enhancing the candidate experience, simplifying the hiring process, reducing hiring costs, and saving time and money. For more information, visit www.rchili.com.
What great ideas are so close within your grasp? Seeing other points of view, anticipating change, considering multiple possible turnouts, acknowledging uncertainty, searching for compromise. We're going to talk about how to get over those limiters of innovation so that you can extract better thinking from yourself and your team. So let's talk about how to win the future.
In this episode, we're joined by the always inspiring Kate O'Neill, recruitment coach, trainer, and now founder of a brand new rec-to-rec agency focused on rookie talent. Kate shares her journey from falling into recruitment to shaping its future and offers sharp insights into why the industry is more attractive and more complex than ever before. From building confidence in new consultants to redefining business development in a post-COVID world, this conversation is packed with wisdom, energy, and practical tips. Welcome back, everybody, to the Marketing Rules podcast. It is my pleasure to welcome on board Kate O'Neill. Kate, you know what? It has been a while. We've been trying to. I say this with so many of my guests that I've been trying to kind of get you on for a long time, and I don't know if it's me or if it's guests, but you're here now. And Kate, for those people who are kind of maybe listening for the first time, new to the podcast, not necessarily aware of your work and what you do, can you give us a little bit of background about what you do?
Yes, I can. So I suppose there's kind of like two things that I now do. So on one side, which people might know me more for, it's the recruitment training, coaching, kind of behavioural work that I do. So work with all different types of agencies and recruiters. And then literally yesterday, I launched my second business, which is a recruitment agency, rack to rack, but at rookie level. And it's about kind of bringing new talent into the industry, but they're already trained by myself. So I've got juggling the two now, which is going to be very interesting. But yeah, in a nutshell, that is me.
And what's your background, Kate? Have you always been in recruitment or and training, or where were you before you kind of became this entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I suppose I have pretty much been. I started in sales when I was a teenager, left uni, got into a call center job. I was there for like a year and a half, got made redundant, fell into recruitment like everybody does, and then I've been doing it ever since, coming up to 12 years now. 2021 in the January is when I set up the coaching business, left the agency that I was with where I was running a division, and now I'm back on the tools again, which I'm absolutely loving, by the way.
Let's talk about the coaching part, right? Because I think that's what most people will know you of. That must be pretty satisfying, right? To take people through this kind of these sessions, through these courses, and then see them kind of making a difference within their own recruitment agency, right? That must be a good feeling.
Yeah, I love it, and my sweet spot, which obviously links in with why I've set this new thing up, is I absolutely love working with rookies or like people in their the first like formative years of recruitment. And I just love it, like being a part of their journey and watching them come from sometimes like they've literally never done the job before to being successful, winning business, placing candidates, but like loving it, like really enjoying what they're doing. Yeah, I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it.
And there must be the kind of an element of satisfaction from those guys as well, right? Because recruitment's not, as you said, most people describe themselves that they fell into recruitment. I don't think people ever necessarily kind of think they're going to have a career in recruitment. You come out of university, or if it's your second job or something, it's not necessarily something you think about. So from their perspective, it must be great because you're kind of giving them that leg up, right? You're supercharging them so they can enjoy it. Because I think sometimes what happens is some people just get thrown into the deep end, right? And recruitment is not easy, right? It is. You have to wear a lot of hats and you have to be very good at all kinds of different bits at all different times, right? So someone coming to you and having that training, that must kind of just put them on the right track right immediately.
Yeah, I think like I end up being a massive support for them. And most of the people I train, I stay in contact with. We become friendly. You know, they really lean on me for support in all aspects of life, like even like emotional support. And like I think what you said there about people fall into it, it is changing. I get so many people watch my YouTube videos and literally approach me and say, I really want to get into recruitment. How do I get into it? How do I start my career? It's changing. And but yeah, don't get me wrong, there's still people that fall into it, but they in those early, we all remember how hard it was when we started, and even if you're getting training, it's still difficult. And I think you're that like recruitment parents, I like to think of it as, you know, they look to you for like help, support, guidance. You make it feel safe for them.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can describe it.
Um, and I know we're going to get onto other topics, right, and to discuss over a few things around the recruitment space today. But how have you found that aspect of people coming into recruitment and people wanting to become recruiters in 2024? We were speaking briefly before we started that we know it's been a tough year for recruiters, for suppliers in the recruitment space, for talent acquisition people. I mean, the whole kind of staffing space has been very kind of trying this year. So have you seen more people wanting to come into recruitment this year or less people wanting to come into recruitment this year?
I think on the rookie side of things, there's not the same fluctuations. So, you know, when we look for experienced consultants, there's kind of like with any area we recruit for, there's like where it becomes client led or candidate led, it fluctuates. I don't really see. I mean, there might be points in the year where you get an influx because maybe people are coming out of college, university, whatever. Not that you need that background, but I don't ever see the same. This is why I think it's such an untapped resource, because there's not the same fluctuations. So I mean, I'm inundated with applications at the moment. I can't keep up. I literally can't keep up with them. And I found that when I did graduate recruitment in my old agency for pharmaceutical sales, it was like mental, just constant people wanting to get into it. So I do think it doesn't have the same massive ups and downs. I haven't seen it be that affected, to be honest with you.
Okay.
No.
What are some of the reasons that you're seeing why people are so keen to get into recruitment? Is it because of you can potentially make a lot of money, right? If you're a good recruiter, or is it now that it's much more professionalized and it's seen as a career, or is it for people who see this as an entrepreneurial opportunity to start their own recruitment agency? What are you seeing?
I think it's a bit of a mix. So the people I speak to, I think there is the assumption, oh well, they just want to get into it for the money. And don't get me wrong, there's people that will say that is partly a motivator for them. And it was for me, you know, like I wanted to build a life for myself and be successful. But there's other things that's motivating people now, and pick up on what you said there. It is being seen as a more professional career. I think things like, for example, you know, on The Apprentice every year, there's always at least one recruiter,
Hmm.
isn't there?
Yeah.
Um, Stuff like, I just think people are more intrigued about it now, and it's seen as a more professional career because we've got now that better agencies out there, more people working in those agencies. People talk about their experience. It's a more positive message that's going through, as well as, you know, there are still negatives out there. Um, and I just think people have got resources now where they can learn more about it and understand, oh, actually, that sounds like something I'd want to do. And a lot of people do want more freedom. They do want the ability to kind of build a business within a business. And there's a lot of young people, well, not just young, there's a lot of people that love the idea of dealing with people. You know, there's lots of progression pathways, like
Hmm.
sideways and upwards in recruitment, isn't there? And couple that with the earning potential and what they can learn, it's just a much more attractive prospect for people
Yeah.
now. So I think
Yeah.
it's more. I When I applied for my first recruitment job, I had no clue what it was, but there weren't really many places to find out what it was anyway.
Yeah. And again, I guess this makes both of us sound old, maybe, but recruitment and how recruitment works and how recruitment agencies work has definitely changed over the last kind of like 10 to 20 years. There's actually
100%.
like it's not just the situation now. You've got a 360 recruiter, right? We you've now got different kinds of roles within a once you get to a certain size of recruitment agency, there's different roles within recruitment. There are the kind of from the recruiters, from the resources, from maybe almost kind of like customer sales or customer focused, from the marketing perspective,
Yeah.
all the way through, right? I mean,
Ops.
you look at lots of these kind of bigger agencies, they've got all kinds of different roles within there. And I don't think you necessarily had that probably 20 years ago. It would still pick up the phones, slam the phones, take role A, connect it with candidate B, and away you go. Now it's a
Yeah.
much different beast, right? And again, you must see that, and you must have to deal with this with your kind of through your training as well, and explain the breadth of recruitment now.
Yeah. And all the candidates I'm speaking to now that want to get into it, this is partly what I'm talking to them about, is there's lots of scope. Depends on what agency you join. So I was in a small to medium size agency in my last job, and there wasn't this set, some of the bigger agencies have got set progression pathways and that's what you follow. It was very flex. So, and I loved that because I thought, like, I can create my own destiny here. Like, I can pitch an idea, I can go sideways, upwards, whatever. And I loved it. So I think if you, and we want driven people to come into
Mhm.
this industry, it's perfect because, like you say, you can, if you're in a bigger agency, you can diversify and go into marketing or operations or lead a division. I mean, there's so much you can do. So I think
Yeah.
people are a bit more cottoned onto that now and see it as, yeah, this is a career. It's not just a stopgap job. It is a career.
I also think that there's also this, the supply chain that spins around recruitment now that probably wasn't there before. So people like yourselves, I mean, kind of recruitment trainers, basically, and people like us, recruitment marketeers, all the tech that's available. And actually, it's quite an exciting space to be in now because of this whole eco structure that has formed around talent acquisition, basically. Um, and I think that is probably one of the greatest sales and drivers for someone to get into this now, because it's a really sophisticated and nuanced and subtle and mature industry that it wasn't 20 years ago when it was just about slamming the phones. Now there are businesses, I guess, that still do that, but I think that's exciting, right? I think that's an exciting thing about what the kind of what we this place that we work in now.
I like honestly, like I am obsessed with recruitment. Like I don't understand how anybody can't think it's amazing. And little things like, the expo next week, right? I just find I think recruitment is just so fascinating. Like you say, there's so many different aspects to it. It is so hard to explain to people not in it, like what our world is like. But yeah, I just think it's amazing. Like that you can't ever really get bored because there's so much to always know. It's an evolving, to me, recruitment is an art and a skill, and it's always evolving. So I just don't see how you can ever get bored of it.
Yeah. Let's talk about one of the things that you support your trainees with, and something that I know has been the kind of topmost for a lot of businesses, and it's around business development. It's one thing that the adage is that a few years ago no one was really having to do business development because of business. Everyone was hiring, and it's become kind of a lot more difficult. And we've already spoken about how
Mm.
difficult this year has been. So this must be one of the areas that is kind of upmost for your kind of trainees, is around business development. So talk us a little around how that kind of works for a recruiter and for a recruitment business, and how that may have changed and what you need to do to kind of really switch that on.
Yeah, I think the mistake which naturally a lot of agencies made, because we'd never been through COVID before, so no one is psychic and knew how to approach this. We had a massive influx. I'm sure both of us have never seen the industry like it was through that time. It was nuts. And for
Mm.
2020, I was still working in an agency. I was in a pharmaceutical. We served the pharmaceutical market, so it went nuts over COVID because of like the respiratory drugs and whatever. So then naturally, the influx of work coming in, there was like, oh, we don't need to do BD. The issue then is that people were losing skills but also losing confidence. But a lot of rookies join during that time. So you've got a group of newbies that think that recruitment is like, oh, jobs just come to me,
Mhm.
and this is recruitment. This is great. And then you've got a group of people that used to do BD. Some of them would have liked it more than others, but they had the skills. Those skills are being lost, but also the confidence and the habits and behaviors around it are being lost. And now we are suffering the consequences because you've now got situations where some agencies have tapped into it and they're like, right, we need to get this sorted. And they've invested in training, development, and maybe in some instances hiring the right people for the job. Because I think through COVID, a lot of people were hired that weren't great for particular positions. But then you've got others that are still suffering from this, where no one is doing BD, or they're doing it but not very well, avoiding the phone. I don't think you need to be on the phone all the time, but you do need to do it sometimes. It's got to be part of your process. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of agencies this year and last year have really struggled, because BD and winning clients has gone back to normal. This is normal. And I say this whenever I've got newbies, that did you join recruitment thinking it would be easy? And they always say, no, I knew it'd be difficult. Well, this is what hard feels like. This is hard. Like, I remember when I started how difficult it was to win a client. I didn't have LinkedIn for BD, it was the phone. And it was fucking difficult. Like, I still remember how hard it was, right? And but they're not prepared for it. Like, they haven't got it's the resilience. If you
Mhm.
don't have the knowledge, you won't have confidence, and if you're not confident, you won't be resilient. And
And I
that is the
guess
problem.
is is there also a situation that some of these newbies who haven't had to develop these business development skills, there's probably a lot of pressure on them now as well from
Yeah,
management and from team leaders to do more of that, because we know that clients have been kind of scarce this year particularly, and hiring has been put on hold, or it's, there's a lot of people kind of running for going for the same kind of roles. So that is probably something that they have never had to face before, this kind of downward pressure, right?
yeah, and it makes it even more scary for them, because it's scary anyway. You know,
Yeah.
they put their clients on a pedestal, because this is what a lot of the time what I try and get is we're trying to change their perception of BD, because they wouldn't hesitate to ring a candidate cold,
Mhm.
but there's something about the BD side. So it's about changing the behaviors and the perception. But yeah, you're totally right. You add on top the pressure, especially if they feel like their job is at risk ultimately, pushes some people just leave.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they can't cope with it. It's too much. And if they haven't been taught how to do it, or ways to cope and mindset stuff, all the stuff that comes into it, they really suffer. And it just means that they're even more resistant to doing it. And when they do it, the quality isn't there because they're just so caught up in the anxiety around it all.
So what are some of the things, without kind of giving away all of your IP around kind of and the training that you do, what are the some of the things, maybe a few tips that kind of the, not just newer recruitment consultants, but maybe recruitment consultants that, just haven't had their eye in for a while, can do around kind of business development? What are the few things that they can kind of take away?
So I think this is, again, when I've worked with people on this has been all different levels of experience. One of the biggest things that gets in the way is the mindset. Because if you can't tackle that, the other stuff won't happen. So I think in terms of kind of a top or some top tips is really be aware of what is going through your mind when you were about to make a call or put together an email or send a video to somebody, whatever the BD activity is, because a lot of people forget that you are not the thoughts in your mind, they are not you, and you can control them. But whatever you're feeling is as a result of your thoughts, and your actions will be based on your feelings. So if those thoughts in your mind are, oh my God, I'm going to ring that client and they're going to hate me and put the phone down, then you're not going to feel great about doing it. And then you probably won't do it. So you've got to kind of rewind. And I give people these kind of handouts where it's got thoughts, feelings, actions split into two, and just write down, get it out. So write down, if you're thinking, oh God, I really don't want to do this, write down, right, what am I thinking right now? What am I feeling right now? What are my actions right now? and then reframe it. What can I think instead? How am I going to feel instead? Or how am I then feeling instead? And then what are my actions? So you're interrupting it. And I still do this myself. I love BD, but I still shit myself before I ring an agency owner sometimes. And I have to really like tap into interrupting these negative thoughts and changing them because they're not real and they're not helpful.
And I guess that is, as you say, there's something you can kind of get over, but it's also nature of the job to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
You're going to you just have to deal with, no, it's not necessarily rejection because it's a different thing, but the fact that you're going to pick up the phone and someone's just going to say no, or they're going to say no thanks, or you might be the fifth agency that's called them that day, basically, and they're just kind of, you just call them a bad time, and they can be fed up. I guess that kind of resilience is something else you've mentioned, and something else you probably kind of bring into their kind of armory as well.
Yeah, and I think it's when you get off that call, however it's gone, reflect. What did I do well? What could I do differently next time? And also remember, don't take it personally because nothing anyone ever says or does to you is a reflection of you. It's a reflection of them. So, like you said, you could be the fifth agency calling them. They could have stubbed their toe before you rang them. They could have a banging headache. Something in their personal life could have happened. You're never going to know. So just don't take it personally. And again, it's very easy to say that, but you've got to. I used to have a post-it note on my laptop to remind me. It's that check-in, like, right,
Mhm.
yeah, there wasn't a great call. There's nothing I can do about it. This is what I did well. This is what I'm going to do next time differently. Right, next thing, because it helps you move into a like positive. Otherwise, you just kind of spiral, don't you? You just think, oh God, I can't do any more of this.
Yeah. And give me your thoughts on kind of using the phone and cold calling and that aspect, because you hear varying kind of opinions on this these days around kind of business development, and that you shouldn't be cold calling anymore. Cold calling is dead, whereas others are
Oh, don't.
huge.
It winds me up.
But there are huge proponents of it. You know, me personally, I feel as a marketeer, I feel there's a middle ground where you can get someone to a point where they are warm from some other outreach, some marketing activity. So when you do call them, it isn't as hopefully as difficult a call. That's where I am. But what's your thoughts on the kind of cold calling situation?
And what everything I say here, I'm talking from a place where I do this myself. So it's
Yeah.
all stuff I obviously teach others, but I'm doing it. This is how I work as well. So I don't even think we need to call it cold calling anymore because, as you picked up on, like for me, if you are a good recruiter now, kind of really ties in the sales and marketing piece, like the personal branding, sales, all of that links, right? So for me, if you show up enough in the places where your target market are, so for me, that's LinkedIn. Anyone that follows me will know I'm fucking relentless on LinkedIn. You will see me every day posting videos, different sort of content. Because 9 times out of 10, if I pick up the phone, which you could say is a cold call, but I probably sent a little message on LinkedIn, I've engaged with some of their content, I've made it warm. And I've had people answer the phone to me and go, yeah, oh, sorry, I know who you are. How's the gym? Or
Mhm.
whatever. And it creates confidence in me because I feel like they might know me when I call, but also it just makes everything so much easier. So I think ultimately saying calling is dead in recruitment is total bullshit. And if you believe that, you're in the wrong job. And our job, if you don't like speaking on the phone, recruitment is not the job for you. Newsflash, right? Because as much as some people will say this out there at the moment, recruitment is all about relationships. We deal with people, client and candidate, and you have to speak to people to build relationships. That might be Zoom calls, Teams, face to face, phone. And it might be that initially you talk over email and then you jump on a call with somebody. But the goal is to at some point speak to that person. You cannot build a long-standing great relationship with a client over an email or text, and you can't qualify a candidate properly and have a good relationship with them again purely over text. So it's not dead. I just think you don't need to do this phone bashing cold like I experienced when I started out. We've got more tools in our box now. But yeah, it doesn't need to be a cold call anymore, I don't think.
No. That's a great point to finish on, I think. Kate, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. As always, we will include all of your details on the show notes. So if anybody wants to know more about the training or the new Rec to Rec business, we'll include all the kind of links there. Obviously, links to your LinkedIn profile so people can kind of digest all of that great content that you put out there. But for now, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. And don't forget, you can subscribe to the Marketing Rules podcast on Apple, Spotify, and all other major podcasting platforms. I've been your host, James Whitelock, and I hope you can join me and more amazing guests next time.